I had just finished leveling the pH in my pool when I saw her for the first time that summer. Karen, self-appointed property compliance officer of our HOA, marching down the sidewalk like a mall cop in a sundress, clipboard in hand, her weapon of choice, her badge of petty authority. You know the type. My pool glittered behind the fence, blue as a bottled dream, and she already hated that I had it. The HOA board approved my installation last year, but only after a month of hearings and a parade of debates about aesthetic harmony. Karen voted no every single time, talking about community tone with a straight face. But I'd built it anyway. Every permit pulled, every code followed, because, where I'm from, doing things the right way is more than a hobby, it's a point of pride. But legality? That never mattered to Karen. For her, it was about control. She stopped at my gate, hands on hips. The HOA decided that pools must have approved fencing colors. That charcoal gray is not approved, she informed me, jaw tight. I told her politely that the bylaws hadn't been updated since before I moved in, and my fence color was grandfathered in. She made a note on her clipboard, lips pressed so tight I'm surprised she didn't pull a muscle. That was her opening move: record, report, harass. Over the next few weeks, she escalated with the precision of a clock. Anonymous reminder letters taped to my mailbox about noise, though I hadn't even had guests. Then, an email accusing me of using unauthorized lighting. My pool LEDs glowed cyan instead of boring old white. I laughed it off, but my wife saw it differently. Just ignore her, she said. But I could feel Karen probing for a weak spot, something she could use to make me snap and look like the bad guy. The turning point came one Friday night. I'd grilled with friends, low music, laughter, nothing wild. Around 10 p.m., I heard the click of my side gate. I looked up, and a phone flashlight was bobbing near the pool. Karen, creeping around, taking pictures through the slats. When I called out, she vanished. I reported her to the HOA for harassment. They thanked me for my feedback. Nothing happened. 2 mornings later, my pool skimmer was missing. The chlorine floater cracked in half. And on the patio chair lay a printed violation notice. No signature, just the HOA letterhead Karen always used. I could practically see her smug grin as she dropped it off. That's when I bought new cameras, motion-activated, cloud-synced, the kind you install when you're done playing defense. If she wanted a war of evidence, I'd give her high def. Summer dragged on. I hosted less, swam more, and quietly built my case. Hours of footage, Karen pacing my fence, peeking through boards, measuring my landscaping with a tape measure. She thought she was invisible, the suburban predator in sandals. I didn't confront her. I wanted her to dig deeper, to get comfortable in her own obsession. Then one brutal July afternoon, the power went out in the neighborhood. My pool pump died mid-cycle. I went outside to check the breaker and found the pool gate hanging half open. My umbrella was snapped in half, water cloudy with leaves. Someone had been there. I checked the cameras. The motion alert from half an hour earlier showed exactly what I expected. Karen ducking under the latch, stepping barefoot onto my deck, staring into the water like she owned it. But the next clip? She slipped, arms windmilling, and tumbled straight into the pool. For a solid 30 seconds, she flailed and sputtered before hauling herself out, drenched and embarrassed, looking around like a thief caught in the act. She limped off barefoot, clutching her phone. I waited a day before emailing the HOA board. Unauthorized trespass into my private pool area, see attached footage. I didn't demand punishment, just a community safety review. That phrase made them panic, liability insurance and all that. Suddenly, I was flooded with apology calls. Karen claimed she'd been inspecting the fence for safety. The board suggested mediation. I suggested police. She showed up that evening, hair still chlorine-frizzed, yelling that I'd violated her privacy by filming her. My wife just shut the blinds. Karen kept shouting until a patrol car rolled up. Not called by me, but by another neighbor tired of her noise. The officers asked what was going on. Karen sputtered about rogue pool owners. They asked if she'd entered my property. She hesitated. That silence was my victory. They took statements. I showed the footage. The younger officer, trying not to laugh, summed it up. So she broke in, fell in, and now she's accusing you of harassment? Karen yelled it was official HOA business. The officer just nodded. Ma'am, that doesn't make it not trespassing. He mentioned potential charges. Her face went pale. I didn't press them to arrest her. I stood there calm, the pool lights reflecting off her soaked sandals. Karen muttered about legal action and stormed off. That night, the neighborhood group chat lit up. Someone had caught the patrol lights on video. Memes followed within hours. The clipboard queen had finally been caught in 4K. If I learned anything, it's that embarrassment doesn't stop control freaks, it mutates them. Next HOA meeting, Karen was back in her power suit, acting like nothing happened. She pushed for new pool access regulations. Any HOA official could inspect backyard water features for safety with notice. She had 2 allies, and it passed 3-2. That night, I poured a drink and watched my blue pool, realizing she wasn't done. She couldn't stand losing. Sooner or later, she'd try again, but this time I was ready. Sure enough, 1 week later at 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Sidegate. Live feed. Karen, flashlight in hand, wide-brimmed hat, full burglar mode. This time, I wasn't letting her slip away. I called dispatch and said the 6 words that started the chaos. There's someone in my pool again. The police took less than 6 minutes to arrive. From my upstairs window, I watched Karen circle the pool, muttering to herself, waving her flashlight over the surface. The beam caught the camera dome. She froze, pointed her flashlight at the lens, like that would erase the footage. That's when I hit the smart lock. 1 tap, gate sealed. She didn't notice at first, but when she turned to leave and tugged, her face twisted. Tried again, clank. Pushed, but the metal was slick from rain. She was trapped, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it for a second. Officers arrived, flashlights sweeping the dark. I met them by the door, told them she was locked in the backyard, trespassing, again, with footage to prove it. The older officer, same guy from last week, sighed. You're kidding. She came back. You'll see, I said. We stepped through the yard together, the gate rattling as Karen's voice, half fury, half panic, rose over the fence. This is an emergency inspection. You're violating. Her flashlight beam caught their uniforms. Oh, thank God you're here. Arrest him. He locked me in. The officer's face did a full 3-step transformation. Confusion, disbelief, weary amusement. Ma'am, you're on his property. She sputtered about authority of the HOA. Do you have a warrant? Blank stare. An HOA doesn't need a warrant. That's when my wife appeared in her robe, quietly filming through the glass. Karen shrieked, "Stop recording me." The officer just held up a hand. Ma'am, you broke into a private backyard. You're being recorded for your own safety. Karen shook the locked gate again. He locked me in. Unlawful imprisonment. The younger cop leaned toward me and whispered, You want to unlock that before she sprains something? 1 tap, latch open. Karen stumbled out, red-faced and shaking. What followed was 10 minutes of pure theater. She tried to file a citizen's complaint, claimed she'd received an anonymous safety report about my pool lights, insisted she had the right to verify. The officer asked for the report. She didn't have it. Asked if she'd notified the HOA president. She hadn't. Finally, he asked if she understood private property. She hesitated, voice dropping brittle and low. If he's got nothing to hide, why does he keep locking his gate? The older officer had enough. He told her to sit on the curb, and that if she harassed or trespassed again, she'd face misdemeanor charges. When she refused, he called for a supervisor. She went pale. I stood a few feet away, calm, hands in pockets, every second on camera. The sergeant showed up, big guy, tired eyes, listened, nodded, and finally told her what no one in the HOA had ever dared. Ma'am, this isn't your property, and you have no right to enter it. This is trespassing. We can either document it as a warning or move forward with charges tonight. She started crying, loud theatrical sobs. You don't understand. He's ruining the neighborhood. The lights, the noise, the guests. The sergeant just rubbed his forehead. Ma'am, lights and noise aren't crimes. Climbing someone's fence at midnight is. When they finally escorted her home, I thought it was over, but I knew better. Karen's pride was a living thing. The next morning, the neighborhood Facebook group exploded. Someone had filmed the incident. The caption read, Karen versus Pool, Round 2. Comments were merciless. By noon, she deleted her account, but that didn't mean surrender. That evening, a note appeared taped to my mailbox. No HOA letterhead, just her handwriting. You've humiliated me. I'll see you in court. I almost admired the phrasing, like a movie villain teasing the sequel. My attorney, a neighbor, laughed so hard I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Court for what? Getting caught. He advised filing a restraining order, but I didn't want to escalate. I wanted her to hang herself with her own rope. So I documented everything. Every note. Every time she slowed her car near my house. 2 weeks later, the HOA announced an emergency meeting on community safety and decorum. I knew who'd called it. The room buzzed when I walked in. Karen sat at the front in pearls and a neck brace she absolutely didn't need. The president tried to start the meeting, but Karen cut him off. "I have been assaulted," she declared, pointing at me. "He trapped me in his backyard to humiliate me." I waited, arms folded. She ranted for 15 minutes, self-victimization, crocodile tears, wild claims that I was weaponizing technology. The board looked more and more uncomfortable. Finally, the president turned to me. "Do you wish to respond?" I played the footage. All of it. Karen breaking in, getting locked inside, yelling for help. The room went dead quiet except for her recorded voice. My evidence. It can't get wet. A few people laughed out loud. The president sighed. "Karen, you had no authorization to enter his property. You've been warned twice by police. You're hereby suspended from the HOA board pending investigation." She jumped up, chair tipping. "You can't do this to me. I've served this community for 7 years." The president's voice was cold. "In that time, you filed over 93 violation reports. None resulted in actual citations." Someone in the back muttered, "93? She stormed out. I didn't move, just watched the door swing shut, knowing it wasn't over. For a while, the air was lighter. But 3 nights later, I found fresh tire tracks in my side yard and a half-empty wine bottle by the fence. No note, no footprints, but I knew Karen was spiraling. My wife urged me to let the police handle it. I agreed, but a part of me couldn't resist watching the collapse. She had built her identity around control, and now every neighbor saw her as the community clown. A week later, a new letter appeared in every mailbox. Pool regulations under review. No signatures, just Karen's formatting. This time, she'd forged official HOA stationery, a real crime. The president called me that night. "We've contacted the police. She's crossed into fraud territory. Be careful." I thanked him, hung up, and watched the pool. Peaceful, deceptively peaceful, because I knew Karen wasn't the type to give up before one last desperate act. 3 days later, squad cars rolled into the cul-de-sac. The HOA president had filed a formal complaint for forgery and harassment. I watched from my porch as officers knocked on her door. Karen, being Karen, didn't come quietly. Her voice echoed down the street, indignant and loud. "This is harassment. I was acting in the community's best interest." One officer replied, "You're under investigation for unauthorized use of HOA materials and trespassing." When they showed her the warrant, she froze. 10 minutes later, she was let out, not in cuffs, but close enough. She looked right at my house, venomous, promising this wasn't over. By afternoon, the group chat was chaos, half the neighbors cheering, half saying I'd gone too far. Karen claimed I'd baited her. The irony nearly made me laugh. The same woman who weaponized bylaws was now crying entrapment. My lawyer said the HOA's insurance carrier was reviewing everything. If she acted under their name, they could be liable. "Keep your documentation tight." I told him it already was. That night, my wife said, "You won. Why keep digging?" I told her it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about making sure Karen couldn't spin the story. 2 days later, I learned she was home, charges pending, but released. I expected her to lay low, but she doubled down, announcing over a megaphone from her yard. False allegations. The HOA remains committed to safety. Neighbors emerged, phones out, some filming, some shaking their heads. I stepped outside as she spotted me. "You set me up," she barked through the megaphone. I just lifted my phone, pressed record, and walked inside. That clip hit Reddit before sunset. HOA meltdown in real time. By evening, it had gone viral. And yet, even as Karen faded into exile, her shadow lingered. She eventually moved away, the board issued apologies, and the new HOA president, Lynn, invited me to a community barbecue. The neighborhood felt lighter. But when the new owners moved into Karen's old house, a package appeared on their porch, her handwriting on the card. "Keep this neighborhood clean. The past has a long memory." Sometimes, when I sit by my pool at night, the water is so still I can almost see her reflection staring back at me. Clipboard in hand, lips tight, whispering, "Violation noted." I can't help but wonder, does the story ever really end? Or does it just move to the next neighborhood, the next unlucky neighbor, the next set of rules waiting to be bent and broken? And if you've ever had a neighbor like Karen, you know exactly what I mean. But tell me, where do you draw the line between defending your peace and becoming the villain in someone else's story? Drop your thoughts below. Justice, overreach, or just life in suburbia?